Hi, hello, welcome back. I'm Victoria and my fall knitting plans this year are as delusional as ever. The first thing I've really been wanting to knit ever since I saw like the sample project posted by this designer is the Forget Me Not jumper by Florence Miller or Handmade by Florence. It's this really beautiful circular yoke colorwork sweater, and if you've watched my videos you know that colorwork is not really my jam, but this one has this really stunning like floral motif all over the yoke and it seems really easy to knit. Spoiler alert, I have started knitting this pattern and it's certainly not the first colourwork sweater you want to knit, and this is the mistake I made but it's okay, like it's turned out okay. I will talk about it more in my podcast and I will give you a tiny sneak peek later on, but I'll talk about the pattern first. So it's actually a slightly lighter DK weight pattern. I think it's 20 stitches by 20 rows. It's got a range of sizes from A to I, which I think is like up to 170 centimeter bust size or like final bust measurement, which is pretty good, though I don't think the last two sizes have been test knitted, so if you're interested in test knitting this pattern then you should definitely reach out to the designer. But I think Florence is quite a size inclusive pattern designer. If you're struggling for within the size range, I think she might probably grade this pattern further if you reach out to her. The Forget Me Not jumper is actually knitted on 4mm needles, which I forgot to mention earlier, but you can size up your needles for the colour work, which is what I've done as well. This pattern is knitted top down, so you start knitting the collar and then you go straight into the colour work. I actually decided to modify this pattern and do a folded neckline, just like Florence did in her second sample, because I really enjoyed the way that looked, and it's also like a twisted rib or half twisted rib that she did, and I also decided to copy that because I just thought it looked so cute. And I didn't really want to do like a funnel neck, like a turtleneck, whatever it's called, so I ended up doing that, and I think it will fit me much better and it will be much more like wearable, because I don't think the weather gets that cold in England. Well, to be fair, I'm saying this while it's still like quite hot. My flat is at the moment absolutely boiling because I had to close all the windows for this video, so yeah, dedication right here. I'm planning to knit this, or I've already started knitting it, in Knitting for All of Merino held double. I was originally planning to knit this in Knitting for All of heavy merino, just like Florence did for her second sample, but they didn't have the colours that I wanted. They've actually released some of them now, which is very annoying. If you buy 2 balls of Knitting for All of just merino, it will be more expensive than buying a ball of heavy merino, I think. I didn't do the maths, I probably should have, but it's okay. I mean, I really wanted this jumper and I had the money at the time, I do not anymore, so I'm glad I bought the yarn back then, but I have moved since and I've spent a lot of money moving, so we move. The colours I'm using for this is Knitting for All of Merino for all of them. This one is the colour Dusty Petroleum Blue, and as you can see I've got one untouched ball, and I actually finished the colour work on this already, so I haven't got any like untouched balls. So this is soft blue, and I've actually noticed for the soft blue that the colour very much differs between dye lots. Like this one is actually the soft blue that I've noticed everyone else have, whereas my mixed rib cami that I knitted in this colour looks a lot more greenish and a lot more bright than this like pretty much grey. Like you can see this almost matches my walls, which are grey. I don't know what's going on with Knitting for All of dye lots, but I guess they're a small business, so yeah. And then Dusty Rose, which is like my favourite Knitting for All of pink. It's actually my favourite pink yarn ever. It's just so stunning, and I think these colours look really good together. I actually had help from my friend Candid Knit, or Anne-Sophie. She helped me choose these colours. I was like texting her as I was in Beautiful Knitters in London, which is like a yarn shop where they sell this yarn, because I really wanted to see the colours in person. I didn't really want to do it without like seeing the colours. I was originally planning to do the lighter version, just as Florence has, but I was going to do it with 3 colours rather than 4 that she has. At the time, as I was choosing my colours, she then released the like darker version. I just thought it was stunning, but obviously it's a little bit too much contrast for me, so I went for these colours, which I'm slightly worried they will be too much contrast, but I have hope. They do look quite cute together. It's like essentially a slightly more muted version of what she's done, which I'm not mad about. This is like perfect, but I'm slightly worried that the contrast between these will be a little bit too much for me. That was a sneak peek. The next thing in my queue is the Poppy Tee by Petite Knit, and I've been like in love with this pattern for ages, but I've just thought that I'm never really gonna wear a knitted t-shirt because I've never really had the need for it. And even if you do it in like cotton merino or like even cotton, then I thought it would be a little bit too warm for me. But with my new job, I think it will actually be perfect to wear to the office, and it's like a very classy piece. This tee is knitted top down in the round, as most of the patterns I knit are. The thing that really interested me in it are the sleeves, because they're kind of like slightly puffed out but not fully, and they're quite long as well, which I thought would look really, really cute. And it looks very polished and like office appropriate. It doesn't look like a just typical tee, it looks more of like a blouse in a way. The original sample is actually knitted in cashmere, which I neither have the money for nor do I think I can survive wearing like as a tee. I think as a jumper it would be perfect, but cashmere top would be perhaps a little bit too warm. I'm going to knit this in cotton merino, however I haven't decided what yarn I'm going to use yet. This pattern is a sport weight gauge, 5 ply, 23 stitches by 32 rows. The Poppy Tee is knitted on 3.5mm needles, which sounds like it's going to be quite a long project. It's probably going to be like a summer cami type project, but a t-shirt, so more knitting with sleeves. This size is extra small to 5 extra large, and I think it goes up to the bust measurement of 140 centimeters on the larger size. It goes up to 150 centimeters bust circumference, not the final fit, but rather your like measurement of bust, and extra small on the lower side of the spectrum, which would fit 80 centimeter bust size. I really like the details on this piece. Like the crew neck looks like it's a little bit folded around the neckline, and the sleeves, they have like a really pretty little pearl ridge just before the ribbing, which I think just adds so much like classiness to this really like simple piece. I'm planning to knit this in either knitting for olive, cotton merino, but I'm not entirely certain on that. I would either use artichoke purple, because I've been dying to try out that yarn colour, or elephant blue, or dusty blue whale. But that is kind of on hold because I'm also really in love with this yarn I saw Knits by AJ knit a top with a few months back, the cardigan Lana Cotton 212, and I would either use the colour 3906 or 3304. A really cute looking purple and like pink colours. I'm currently in a massive pink phase, but I think I would go for the purple. It's like a lilac-y lavender sort of colour, and I think it would look really adorable, and it would be nice to like branch out and try a slightly different yarn. I think it's superwash merino and cotton, so it's also slightly different. I'd be a little bit wary of the superwash aspect of it. It might be a good shout to try it. I really like the knitting for olive cotton merino, but I think the like gauge would be a little bit off because obviously it's a fingering rather than a sport, whereas the cardigan Lana Cotton is I think a sport weight yarn. It would be a lot easier and I wouldn't have to like faff with gauge and trying to figure out like a different size or anything like that. But let me know like what you guys think I should knit. What would you choose? There's also another pattern of a tee that is kind of similar to it but not really, is the Shoreline tee by Azetta. With this one I'm a little bit wary because it's a saddle shoulder design. I'm a little bit scarred after knitting my Brady loop sweater. I don't think it looks very good on me. Like I look very bulky and like a little bit manly in it, like because I've got really wide shoulders and the way it like slopes off of them makes me kind of look like an American football player. So it's not really a look I'm going for, and I feel like the top might give me that bit of a look. It's a really stunning pattern because it's just like very simple, and it's got these like cables. It doesn't have pearl rows between the cables, so the cables are just like a part of the stockinette, which just looks really cute and slightly different. And what drew me to that pattern again are the sleeves, which are a little bit longer. They're not very wide, they're like quite like arm hugging, but they're not very tight, so it like ends up looking like a blouse. Yeah, I'm leaning more towards the poppy tee, but I still wanted to mention this because I thought it was really cute. The next pattern in my queue, which I've actually already started knitting on at the start of the year, and then I put it to the side to hibernate because it was way too warm, is the Monday sweater by Petite Knit. This is the progress I've made. As you can see, I've pretty much finished the body of the jumper. I literally just have the ribbing to do and then the sleeves, but as I was knitting on this, it just got way too warm, and then I wasn't sure on the length of this sweater that I wanted, so I just put it to the side, and I was gonna be like, it's a future me problem. It's just this very simple raglan knitting top down, and it's got this really stunning folded collar. I think the thing that drew me to this is like how slightly square the collar is. It's not like very rounded and deep, it's very like high up and like slightly chunky, which I think works really well with this pattern. But it's just so simple, and I've been really missing like simple staples in my wardrobe, so that's why I'm knitting it in this beige yarn combo. I'm actually using Knitting for Olive Merino in the colour Nordic Beach, which unfortunately has been discontinued, but I managed to snatch it before like it was out of stock in places. And then I'm holding it with the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the colour Linen. I feel like they match quite well, surprisingly, because they're like entirely different colours. It does give me a tiny bit of a marl, which I actually really like, because obviously this is a very simple piece. I think the mohair will really just hide like the difference between the two colours, but if you look up close, it does have a little bit of a difference, and you get like little specks where there's like a little bit of a darker colour, which just adds a little bit of dimension to the fabric, which I really enjoy. This pattern again is DK weight, and it's knitted on 4mm needles with 3.5mm needles for the ribbing. It ranges from extra small to 5XL, and it fits bust circumferences of 80 to 150 centimeters, and that's not the final bust measurement, but the like bust circumference that it fits. If I have any leftovers of this yarn after knitting this sweater, I really wanted to make like a tiny little scrappy project, and since I just moved into this new flat, I have just like a pair of keys, and because I moved to London, I don't need a car, so I don't need to carry my car keys with me around. I just have literally a key, so it's really easy to kind of lose it because it's just so small. Like I'm so used to having like my house keys and having a massive car key, and then having like this little key ring that like says call this number if you lose the keys, because essentially you need it for like insurance sometimes. Now that I don't have all of that, my key just doesn't take up any space, and I feel like it's just so easy to lose, so I really wanted to just knit myself a little key ring. The Typical Teddy mini version by Tiffany Liu is just this like one size tiny little teddy bear, which is just so adorable, and I feel like it will be the perfect scrappy yarn project because it literally needs like nothing, like pretty much no yarn at all. I think it's knitted in a round. That's like what is kind of scaring me off it, because like tiny needles in the round, it's a little bit, but I feel like it's going to be a really nice like evening project, and it'll be finished like bish bash bosh, so I'm really excited to knit this. It's knitted on 2mm needles in a sport weight yarn, but I think I can just like use my scrap yarn, and like I guess it will be like a more of a DK weight, so it might be a little bit chunkier, it might end up being a little bit bigger. It's just adorable. I think it will be the perfect little scrap yarn project. And in the sample, the teddy has like a tiny little scarf as well, so I could maybe add like a little bit of pink or a little bit of purple. I feel like the possibilities are endless, or I could even give it like different scarves for different days. I don't know. This is a lot more planning for Teddy than I was expecting, but yeah, I feel like it will be super cute. My next project is also one that I've actually already started at the start of the year with the same issue that I had with the Monday sweater. It's a mohair like containing project, so it was a little bit too warm for the sticky mohair to like be knitted in the summer. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of the sensory experience of knitting mohair in the summer, but I think it'll be just the perfect fall knit, and I'm really excited to wear it once the weather gets colder. I actually really need another basic sweater, and I'm knitting the sweater number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. This like very simple classy sweater and knit from the top down, and you essentially start knitting the front panel and then the back panel, and they're just like big rectangle-ish things that are just ribbed. It looks really funny when you're knitting it, but I think at the end it will look absolutely adorable. It says it's a fingering weight yarn for this project, but it's light fingering held with lace, which is, I don't think it makes a fingering. I don't know. I'm holding a Drops Baby Merino, which is like a, I suppose it's a sport weight maybe, and I'm holding this with the Drops Kid Silk. This is the colour 01 White, and this is the colour Chalk. And as you can see, this is like a very slightly warm toned white, whereas this is a very cool toned white. So together, I feel like they make just a neutral white colour with like a tiny hint of beige in there, but very, very slight hint. I suppose this is a cream colour, like a white cream. I know for some of you it will be like, it's white, shut up. But yeah, I feel like there is a difference, and I don't think this by itself would suit me, but together I feel like they'll be really, really cute. Unfortunately, this pattern is not size inclusive. It's one of My Favorite Things Knitwear's like early patterns, which I think she hasn't gotten around to updating. I hope she updates it soon to include more sizes, but currently it's available only from extra small to extra large, and she doesn't give like suggested sizes, but it fits from 117 to 139 centimeters. It's not the bust sizes that it fits the final piece with. Not great. I'm sure there are better alternatives, but it's also quite an easy pattern to modify, but it's just like a neck tube, and then you just increase until you have the width that you want, and then you just knit for the sleeves, and then I think you'll just pick up the sleeves here after you've joined in the round. So I'm sure you could just do the increases a little bit faster and just make it a little bit, or even go a bit longer, I suppose. Not sure if that would look great, but yeah, you could just go like this to make it a little bit bigger, or like make fewer increases to make it even smaller than the like extra small. I'm very fortunate to fit within the size range, and I really wanted to knit this. I forgot to mention it's just knitted in 2x2 rib. It's a little bit less mindless than stockinette, but it's quite nice that it's just all over the same texture. There's not much going on. Like, there's this really pretty detail on the side, as you can see, like along the shoulder where you make the increases, which, yeah, it makes this pattern perfect for modifying, which, again, I feel like My Favorite Things Knitwear, it would be so easy for her to go back and just grade this pattern up a little bit more. I mean, she's got hundreds of patterns, so I kind of get it, but then also she's a full-time designer, so nuance, I can't judge. The next pattern I really want to knit is the ondina scarf, which is a slightly more elevated basic version of the Petite Knits Sophie scarf, which is just like a tiny little scarf that you can wear around your neck, and I feel like it will be a perfect little staple for autumn, fall weather, where it's like a transitional period where it's not super cold, so you don't want a massive scarf around your neck, but you also kind of need something to keep your neck warm, or at least I'm like that. I really don't like my neck being cold. I feel like this will be just an adorable little piece in my wardrobe, and it's got these really pretty scalloped edges. I would definitely knit it in just one colour, but the samples have like a coloured edge on it. I assume it's like I-cord or something. It's just one size. It's knit on 2.25mm needles, and it's using lace weight yarn, and it's 23 stitches by 38 rows. It's just a tiny scarf. I feel like you can really play around with the gauge. You can use different yarns and it will still be pretty much the same. It's just like garter stitch with just little scallops, which, yeah, I think it's adorable. As a graduation gift, I got this lovely box of just little goodies from my friend Anne-Sophie, and as a part of it, she sent me these little hand-dyed skeins of yarn that she made. These are like tiny little mini skeins. I've been thinking of what I could use these up for, and they're all like slightly different colours. She was going to send me one, but she couldn't decide on which one to send me, so she just sent me all of them, which is just the sweetest thing ever. I mean, they're so pretty. I feel like I don't want to do anything with them because they just look so nice, and I could maybe have them just chilling, but then I don't like having yarn that doesn't do anything. So I feel like these would be perfect for this project. I don't think they're too scratchy. I think it's lace weight, I'm pretty sure. And even if it's not, again, it doesn't really matter for the purposes of this project. This one's got like little specks of yellow. I think she was trying to mute the purple colour with yellow. I really love just the way all of them look. I feel like they're just stunning in their own special way. I might either just hold them in like into a gradient, I suppose, because this one's the most cool toned, this one's like an in-between colour, and this is the most warm toned one. Or I would do like a version of helical knitting or stripes or something so that they just turn into one colour. I also don't actually know how much I have in there, so I need to find out how much I actually need, because maybe I can use just one of them to knit the scarf. I don't know. Very vague plan. The next pattern I'm planning on knitting this fall is the sweater number 15. It was really popular like maybe 2 years ago. I'm very late to the hype of this. I've actually started knitting it at the time, but I ended up hating it, and it was really hard because I was like a relatively new knitter and I was really struggling with like figuring out the cables, and the yarn I was using was just getting tangled. It wasn't a great time. I've been really wanting to knit a version of this in knitting for all of merino and mohair held together in the colour Dusty Artichoke. And now I'm less certain of my choices because I feel like this looks a lot more bright and like darker than everyone else's, but I suppose the mohair is quite like light and then this is a little bit darker, so maybe it will cancel it out. I'm not giving up hope on this just yet. I will definitely knit a swatch. It's knitted on 4.5mm needles and it's 23 stitches and 29 rows. It's in sizes extra small to extra large. Again, not ideal size range. I don't know what is going on with my favourite things knitwear, but I suppose it is a slightly older pattern of hers. This one would be much harder to like size up if you really wanted to. I suppose you could play with gauge, but in terms of like doing the pattern and like figuring out where to like make it larger, I think that would be quite hard. I really struggled knitting it when I was obviously a slightly newer knitter. Maybe now it would be easier. I'll update you in my podcast again on this one. You actually start knitting the back and then you pick up the front, and then it's just like a drop shoulder. I've actually already started knitting this a little while ago. A questionable yarn choice. I was really skeptical of holding a yarn with a mohair because I thought it would like end up looking a bit like a cloth. So I ended up holding, like very much off gauge, 2 strands of drops alpaca in this like lilac-y colour, 4010, and it looks kind of cute. I don't know, I wasn't very sure whether I would like to wear it at the time, but now I don't know, it's kind of cute. But I definitely hate the gauge. I was gonna unravel it and then I was really struggling with doing that at the time. However, I do have a swatch where I tried this yarn held with a mohair, and I feel like it looks much better. Like it looks less bulky and more like it should look. Unfortunately, I cannot use this yarn because Drops Alpaca is just so itchy on me. I just cannot wear it. I feel like it's maybe like an allergic-ish reaction because it like is itchy, and then when I take it off it's still itchy and like red. Not great, but it only happens when I get warm. Well, I'm still cold in the sweater, it's fine, and then as soon as I get warm, oh my god. But I do think this swatch just looks so pretty, and I feel like the colour would actually suit me. Although I have knitted a cardigan in a very similar colour setup situation moment in Drops Daisy with their mohair, and that's where I actually got the leftover mohair from. Oh no! Oh, I'm actually very stupid right now. This is the swatch for the Drops Alpaca held double. Never mind. it looks kind of cute, but it looks so different. You can really see the difference between them. So if you like drops alpaca, that's a really good option for this. Let me know what you think. Is green my colour? I don't really know. And now we are getting to the absolutely unhinged delusion territory. As always, we always have a section like this in my knitting plans videos. These are patterns that I really want to knit. If I had more time, I definitely would knit them this fall. I'm not sure how feasible it is. I will still talk about them though. And the first one is the capulet blouse by Fable Knitwear, and there's this really stunning, like kind of like this actually, similar blouse to this, where it's got like slightly flouncy big sleeves and like quite a fitted body with a little bit of a ruffle at the bottom. However, it's got like cables around the body. It looks a little bit like corset-like. Was thinking of modifying it so that it goes all the way down. I saw someone make a project like this on Instagram. I can't remember the name of the account, but I will probably put it somewhere or link it down below. I think it looks really stunning, and I feel like it would be a little bit more wearable as like a longer sleeve sweatery type thing. It's also got quite an open neckline. Gauge of this is a little bit awkward because it's knitted in a sport weight yarn on 4mm needles, which I'm a little bit worried will look a little bit gapey. Yarns used for this are a bit interesting. I think some people use like Drops Baby Merino and stuff. I do really like the like Fable Knitwear sample of it, but again, I think it's like her own yarn that she made. This is available in sizes extra small to 4XL, 80cm to 145cm, like bust circumference. There's no ease on this pattern, so I think you could like play around a little bit with gauge. I will definitely have to think about how I want this to fit me, because I have like a specific idea of how I would like it to fit me. It's just very feminine kind of pattern. I don't make things that are very like flouncy and feminine. I just make things that are, I don't know, basic. But this is something that I've been really enjoying recently, like just feeling a little bit more girly. I've been wearing a lot more pink, so I feel like this pattern will be just really nice to add to my wardrobe. I was thinking of knitting this in the yarn called Summer in Cashmere, and either I would use colour Heather 05, which is like this slightly dusty darker pink, and I think it looks very similar to Tinlina Dusty Rose, which I've actually knitted with, and it's a really stunning yarn colour. It's like this but like slightly darker, but it's still quite dusty. It's a bit of a gamble, I think, with that colour. Or the other option is to use the colour Powder 03, and I actually think that colour is very similar to this top that I have. Powdery, pinkish, lilac-y kind of colour. Quite similar to this top, so maybe I would go for the darker colour actually, to just have a little bit of variation in my wardrobe. Summer in Cashmere I think is 90% cotton and 10% cashmere. It should have like cotton properties, but have a little bit of a halo from the cashmere and just give it a little bit more of a pleasant like knitting feel. I was going to go to a wedding in December, but then my partner and I realised that the date is like really awkward. They're getting married in Ireland on the 27th of December. It's not someone that's like very close to us. We're planning to visit my family as well over Christmas, and it might not be the best idea to go to that wedding, but if I were to go, the plan was to wear like this really nice dusty blue dress. I wanted to keep warm with like a little cardigan, and I don't have anything that would look good with it, so I was thinking of knitting the Louna cardigan by Camille K. It's just so pretty. It's just like a very simple wrap cardigan, but it's got the most beautiful scalloped edges around the neckline, around the bottom and around the sleeves, so it's just such an elevated basic, and I think it would look absolutely stunning with that dress if I knit it in like a dusty petroleum blue colour, or maybe even soft blue by Knitting for Olive. I think it would just look absolutely stunning. I would just hold Knitting for Olive merino and mohair together ideally. I'm a little bit bummed out that I'm not going to knit it because there's not really a reason for me to knit it at the moment, but definitely if I get invited to any more weddings that are not around Christmas time, I will certainly knit this one. It's knitted on 4 or 3.5mm needles, and it's 21 stitches by 30 rows in DK weight yarn. It's available in English and French, and the Size range is again a little bit not ideal, but surprisingly better than my favourite things knitwear. It's extra small to 2XL. It is a smaller designer. This pattern has like 33 people that have knit it. It's just a really lovely pattern and I would really love to knit this, but again, too many knitting plans, too little time. The next pattern is actually a really good alternative for the first one. It's another wrap cardigan, and this is the Robinson wrap by Florence Miller, or handmade by Florence. I've actually knitted this one in the past and I don't wear it too much because of my colour choice. This one is size inclusive. It sizes A to I. It would fit a bust measurement from 75 to 155 centimeters. It would fit even more sizes than that because you can like loosen it or tighten it as much as you want really. It's like a very nice project for like weight fluctuation as well, because you like just tie it where you want it to sit because it's just so like adjustable. It's just so nice to wear. And this is knit in a DK weight yarn on 4mm needles. There is a lot of DK projects in this fall, so I might struggle with my needles around this time, but we'll see how it goes. And I was planning on knitting it in knitting for all of merino and mohair held together in the colour artichoke purple, because again I really want to try out that yarn and I think it would just look absolutely stunning in that colour, and I feel like would get a lot more wear out of it because currently I have like a cream but a very warm toned cream version of it, and I also knit it in just one strand of like an alpaca yarn, I think from Lana Grossa, towards like the start of my knitting journey. So I didn't really know much about like yarn weights and I didn't know much about yarn like fibers. I wasn't really certain what I wanted to knit with, and I had like a bit of a phase of really wanting to knit with alpaca because I thought it would be like the perfect fiber, soft and fluffy and pretty and everything, but yeah, my skin does not unfortunately like it. It's very itchy wearing that cardigan because it's like a blouse rather than a cardigan, because it's quite fitted and it's quite tight like around your arms and stuff, so you can't really wear much underneath. Bare skin and alpaca yarn do not mix very well for me. I'm not sure how much better the merino and mohair combo would be. I just really want to knit another hat. I have one really cozy hat that I knit last year and it's the Oslo hat by Petite Knit. So I was either thinking of knitting another one of those but in like a little purpley colour. I could even use this yarn, but I'm not sure whether there is enough for like a whole hat. I'm thinking of knitting it in Knitting for Olive in the colour Dusty Violet. I feel like it would really work well with like a little scarf in this colour, and I also knitted a purple scarf in Cardiff cashmere over the past few months, which I will talk about more in my podcast, but I feel like the Dusty Violet would look really cute with that one, and I think on my head it would like suit me a little bit better than the cashmere I used. I've got a very sensitive head, like I can't use many fibres. Even the Sandnes Garn Merino Sunday that I used for my Oslo hat, and it is the tiniest, teeniest, weeniest bit itchy on me, but it's literally just my head. If I get warm again, like any fibre will itch me, even like acrylic. Yeah, I think Knitting for Olive Merino might be a good shout for that one. Another option, if I didn't want to knit just like a basic hat, would be the Pretty Hat by Tommy Knits. It's this really cool design because it's just like a ribbed hat, like a ribbed beanie, but it's actually got a 6-point decrease around the crown. I think it would be a lot more fitted around your head, like more and less bulky. The thing that I find with the Oslo hat is that it can be a little bit like square around the point where you do the decreases, so I think the 6-point decrease would make it a lot better fitting, I think. So yeah, that would be a really good option if I do end up wanting to knit something a little bit more fancy, although I'm not sure how I feel about knitting this much ribbing in the next few months, so I might end up going for the Oslo hat. They're both knitted in DK weight yarn. I think the Pretty Hat is 3.75mm needles and the Oslo hat is 4mm needles, but there's like various different versions because you can do Oslo hat mohair edition. The only thing about the Pretty Hat, it's only got 2 sizes, whereas the Oslo hat has like loads, like kid sizes and man size, and yeah, those are not very great measurements, but I think that's how Petite Knit like says them. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know how you feel about it. Also, I forgot to mention, look at my adorable bracelet. I got it in the same package as my lovely little yarns from Anne-Sophie. I've already thanked her in person, but again, thank you so much if you're watching this. I love you lots. And I will see you guys in the next ones. Bye.